Welcome, God's chosen ones, and happy December. This is the season of joy, love, and miracles, a time to celebrate the boundless goodness of our Heavenly Father. Yet, as we reflect on the blessings pouring into your life, it's impossible to ignore the profound truth of Galatians 6:7. Be not deceived. God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. While you are stepping into a season of breakthroughs and divine favor, those who have worked against you are facing a holiday like no other. A Christmas marked by turmoil, regret, and divine reckoning. Before we dive deeper, I want to pause and thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your heartfelt comments and unwavering encouragement uplift this community in ways words cannot describe. To everyone who has given through super thanks, your generosity is a shining example of God's love at work. Thank you for making a difference. If you're ready to stand firm in God's unshakable plan for your life this season, drop a 999 in the comments as a declaration of your faith. Have you ever wondered what happens to those who dare to obstruct the blessings God has ordained for His chosen ones? This Christmas, the tables have turned in ways no one could have predicted. As you unwrap gifts of favor and abundance, those who conspired against you are unwrapping the weight of their own actions, facing a season filled with the very chaos they wished upon you. Stay with us, because what comes next isn't just about retribution, it's about God's unstoppable justice. Together, let's uncover how this holiday has become a nightmare for those who stood against a chosen one, and how God's hand is moving powerfully in your favor. God's chosen ones. It's a Christmas holiday of hell for those who stand against you. The holiday season has a peculiar way of making people reflect on the choices they've made over the past year. For your enemies, this time of year is not filled with joy, peace, or celebration. Instead, it becomes a season of reckoning, a moment where the consequences of their actions catch up with them in ways they can no longer ignore. All year long, they may have schemed, spread gossip, or tried to tear you down, thinking their actions would go unnoticed, or that there would be no repercussions. But life doesn't work like that. Now, as the year draws to a close, the truth cannot remain hidden any longer. During this season of reflection, they're forced to confront the weight of their actions. It's not just the harm they've caused you that they must face, it's the damage they've done to themselves in the process. In the Bible, we see the principle of sowing and reaping laid out clearly. Galatians 6:7 warns, "Do not be deceived, God is not mocked. A man reaps what he sows." Your enemies may have thought their cruelty would go unnoticed, but now they are reaping what they have sown. This isn't some abstract idea of karma. It's real, it's personal, and it's tangible. Their relationships are frayed because others can see through the web of lies and deceit they've spun. Their finances are tighter as distractions and chaos have consumed their energy, leading to poor decisions. Their mental peace is in tatters because they've wasted their time and focus on negativity instead of investing in growth, self-improvement, and healing. What makes this time even more difficult for them is the stark contrast. While you are flourishing, surrounded by the light of progress, gratitude, and the warmth of genuine love and connection, they are left in the emptiness they themselves have created. Think about how your peace and joy in the Lord have allowed you to grow and prosper, while they remain trapped in their own bitterness and envy. Can you imagine the deep sense of regret that rises within them when they realize you've moved on without a second thought about their schemes, while they remain stuck in their toxic patterns? The holidays are a time that magnifies everything, and for them that means amplifying their sense of emptiness. Every laugh they force around family, every cheerful Christmas carol they hear, is a painful reminder of how hollow their own lives have become. It's like the sting of a wound that won't heal. In the midst of all the holiday cheer, they are unable to escape the glaring spotlight that reveals their failures, and it eats away at them. Have you ever thought about how often the Bible speaks of the power of repentance and the consequences of one's actions? In Matthew 7:2 it says, "For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured to you." This truth becomes painfully real for your enemies now, as their judgment has arrived, just as they judged you with malice and disdain. While you've been walking in the light, growing stronger in your faith, their actions have left them shackled by bitterness and regret. They can no longer escape the accountability they now face. And the worst part for them? They spent so much time trying to bring you down, trying to tear apart your character and peace, that they completely neglected to build themselves up. They forgot that in their pursuit of destroying you, they were, in fact, dismantling their own lives. Now, as the holiday season forces everyone to pause and reflect, they are confronted with the reality of their choices. No distractions, no more running from their consequences. Their Christmas cheer is non-existent, and their reckoning is fully underway. Isn't it fascinating to see how this season, meant for reflection, is a double-edged sword? It is a time for healing and reconciliation, yet for those who have walked in the shadows of envy and negativity, it becomes a time of deep introspection and regret. The gift of accountability has arrived, and for your enemies, it is the most unwelcome present they could receive. And what about you, as they face the consequences of their actions? What does it feel like to see God's justice unfold before your eyes? Your enemies thought they could break you. They believed they could tear you down and leave you stuck, defeated, or irrelevant. They comforted themselves with the illusion that you would remain in the shadows, unable to rise above their schemes. But the holidays have a way of exposing the truth, and your glow-up is the undeniable proof that their efforts were in vain. Every success you've achieved, every milestone you've passed, becomes a constant reminder to them of how badly their attempts to sabotage you failed. In the Bible, we are reminded in Proverbs 16:7 that when the Lord takes pleasure in anyone's way, He causes their enemies to make peace with them. The favor of God upon your life has not only led to success, but has also caused your enemies' plans to backfire. They thought their tactics would keep you down, but instead they have propelled you higher. Every victory you've secured, whether in your career, relationships, or personal growth, becomes a stark contrast to the place where they remain. While you flourish in the light of your growth and progress, they're stuck in their own stagnation, spinning their wheels with no forward motion. Can you see the irony in this? Their bitterness now festers as they watch you rise higher than they ever imagined. But it's not just envy that they feel. It's the brutal reality that they made the wrong bet. They thought you would fail, and now they are forced to live with the consequences of their misjudgment. This season, meant for joy and celebration, instead becomes a harsh reminder of their own shortcomings. While you thrive and move from strength to strength, they are left reflecting on the emptiness of their own efforts. Do you think they ever imagined this outcome when they plotted against you? Could they have ever foreseen that their actions would only be the fuel that ignited your success? Your glow-up isn't just about material gains or surface-level victories. It's a reflection of your inner transformation. You've been refined through trials, strengthened by challenges, and blessed by God's grace. And what makes it even more painful for them is the knowledge that they played a role in your rise. Their attempts to block your blessings only sharpened your focus. Every obstacle they threw in your path has become a stepping stone, pushing you toward greater things. It's like the refining fire mentioned in 1 Peter 1:7. These have come so that the proven genuineness of your faith, of greater worth than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. Every trial they thought would destroy you has only refined you further, making you stronger, more confident, and more focused on God's plan for your life. And let's talk about the worst part for them. Your glow-up is effortless. You're not flaunting your success or rubbing it in their faces, yet the radiance of your achievements cannot be ignored. It shines through in your confidence, your energy, your peace. They can see it in the way you carry yourself, the way you walk in purpose, the way you have risen above their schemes without even needing to acknowledge them. This is not about pride or arrogance. It's the fruit of your faith and perseverance. And the more they see it, the more they are haunted by their failure. Their attempts to break you only made you better, and every time they look at you, they are reminded of that. As they watch you shine brighter with each passing day, they are forced to confront their own failures. They can no longer deny that their efforts to bring you down only highlighted their own inadequacies. This season, which is meant to be a time of celebration and joy, has become their season of reckoning. And the irony? The brighter you shine, the darker their bitterness becomes. They can't escape it. They can't run from the truth. Your success isn't just a testament to your hard work and God's favor. It's a glaring reflection of their failure to defeat you. Isn't it amazing how God works in our lives? The more your enemies try to destroy you, the more God uses their attacks as stepping stones for your growth. How can they deny what they've witnessed? How can they ignore the light that shines from within you, which was only made brighter by the very things they threw your way? It's not just your season of success, it's their season of reckoning, and they are powerless to stop it. Karma has an interesting way of unfolding in our lives, and its timing is always perfectly aligned with what we need, whether we realize it or not. Your enemies spent the entire year believing they had gotten away with the lies, manipulation, and negativity they directed at you. They thought they could create chaos in your life without facing any consequences. But here's the truth. Karma doesn't operate on their timeline. It doesn't rush, but it waits for the right moment to make its impact. And what better time than the holiday season? While the world celebrates and enjoys moments of peace and joy, your enemies are quietly unraveling as the full weight of their actions catches up with them in ways they never imagined. In the Bible, we see the law of sowing and reaping emphasized time and again. Galatians 6:7 clearly states, "Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. A man reaps what he sows." Your enemies may have believed they could escape the consequences of their actions, but just as surely as you reap the benefits of your kindness and integrity, they will eventually reap the harvest of their deceit. And the beauty of it is that karma's timing is flawless. It arrives when they least expect it and in the most unexpected of ways. This isn't a small, subtle nudge from the universe. This is a full-blown reality check. Plans they thought were foolproof are suddenly falling apart. The very things they took for granted, relationships, finances, and stability, are crumbling under the weight of their own deceit. The financial struggles that seemed so far away now hit them harder than they anticipated. The relationships they manipulated or destroyed are now unraveling, leaving them isolated and alone. The negativity they put out into the world has boomeranged back with a force they cannot ignore. It's like the proverbial seed they planted has now grown into a thorn bush, pricking them at every turn. Proverbs 26:27 teaches us, "Whoever digs a pit will fall into it. If someone rolls a stone, it will roll back on them." The very traps they set for you are now ensnaring them. But here's the bitter irony. It's all happening when they need peace the most. The holiday season, meant to be a time of rest, family, and joy, has instead turned into a storm of chaos and regret. They're desperately trying to hold everything together while the consequences of their actions weigh them down. Can you see the stark contrast? As the world celebrates the beauty of the season, Your enemies are struggling to keep their lives from completely falling apart. It's a bitter pill to swallow, especially when their greed and malice have led to this moment. Can you imagine how it feels for them to watch you, who they tried to destroy, thriving in peace and success, while they are drowning in the very chaos they created? Karma doesn't work out of spite. It's not a tool of vengeance. It's a natural consequence of the energy you put into the world. Jesus said in Matthew 7:2, "For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured to you." Your enemies judged you harshly, and now they are being judged by the very same measure. While they tried to steal your joy, your stability, and your peace, they are now left to witness their own unraveling. They may try to put on a brave face, to hide behind a mask of false cheer, but behind the scenes, it's a mess. Their personal lives are in turmoil, their reputations tarnished, and their peace shattered. And the cruelest twist of all, they can't escape the fact that you've moved forward, unscathed, while they remain in the wreckage of their own making. The holiday season, typically filled with warmth and joy, has turned into a glaring reminder for them of their actions. The universe has a way of balancing the scales, and for them, this is a season of reckoning. It's a reminder that you reap what you sow. What they planted with bitterness, they are now harvesting in regret. The more they try to block your blessings, the more their own life slips out of control. This is karma's impeccable timing at work, an undeniable force that cannot be outrun or avoided. And here's the ultimate question: how do you feel, knowing that the very same force that carried you through your trials is now at work in your enemies' lives? Isn't it amazing how God's justice unfolds, often in the most unexpected moments? For much of the year, your energy was their lifeline, even if they never acknowledged it, whether through constant criticism, manipulation, or simply being in your presence. They relied on you to fill the voids in their lives. Your energy wasn't just something they wanted, it was something they needed. Your positivity, your ability to stay resilient in the face of hardship, your emotional depth, these were things they fed off to mask their own insecurities, fears, and shortcomings. But now that you've withdrawn it, they are left struggling, floundering, desperately trying to fill a gap that nothing else can replace. Have you ever thought about how your presence affects the energy of those around you? In 1 Corinthians 15:33, the Bible warns, "Do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character." This illustrates how deeply someone can feed off another person's energy, either to elevate their own spirits or to manipulate and drain the life out of them. And now, as your light has faded from their lives, they are forced to confront the truth of just how much they depended on you. It's not just the absence of your presence that stings. It's the jarring realization of how much they've taken from you without ever giving back. You were their emotional crutch, their support system, their source of strength in moments of weakness. Without your energy to prop them up, their true selves are laid bare for them to see. They can no longer hide behind your positivity and resilience. Their emotional emptiness is fully exposed, and they feel spiritually drained, mentally scattered, and emotionally hollow. They are now forced to grapple with their own vulnerabilities, something they couldn't do when you were around to distract them from their insecurities. The real kicker: your withdrawal wasn't driven by anger or vengeance. It wasn't a dramatic exit or a harsh confrontation. Instead, it was a calm and deliberate choice to prioritize your peace. You didn't shout, argue, or try to explain yourself. You simply walked away. Your silence became the loudest message they've ever received. It's the kind of silence that resonates deeply, the kind that forces them to look inward and reflect on the consequences of their actions. And that silence is deafening. How long will they sit with the questions that swirl in their minds? Why aren't they engaging with me anymore? Why don't they care? Why does everything feel so much emptier without them? What makes it worse for them is that no replacement works. They might try to find new friends, dive into distractions, or attempt to fill the void with other things, but it just doesn't hit the same. Your energy wasn't just unique, it was irreplaceable. The love, support, and understanding you offered them were one of a kind, and now they're discovering how desperately they relied on it. Every new attempt to fill the gap only highlights the emptiness they feel, as nothing can compare to the presence you brought into their lives. Think about it. How many times have we been in relationships, whether with friends, family, or colleagues, where we've given so much of ourselves to others that we've allowed them to feed off our energy? The Bible teaches in Luke 6:38, "Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap." Yet, when that giving is not reciprocated, when your energy is drained without replenishment, it leaves you feeling depleted. And when you withdraw, those who have abused your generosity are forced to confront their own lack, as they have no one left to siphon from. Now, as they sit in the emptiness of their own making, they are forced to reckon with a painful truth. They didn't just lose you, they lost the best part of themselves that only you brought out in them. Your energy helped them to shine, but without it, they are left in the dark. Your withdrawal wasn't just a loss to them, it was a mirror, reflecting back to them the cost of their actions and attitudes. This is the punishment they never saw coming, the absence of something they relied on, something that, in truth, they never deserved. Isn't it fascinating how God's wisdom guides us to know when to walk away from relationships that drain us? Your energy is sacred, and when you protect it, you honor both yourself and the divine calling on your life. Have they learned yet what it means to truly value something as precious as the energy you gave? And will they ever understand the cost of taking it for granted? The holiday season is unforgiving to those who rely on facades. While the world is filled with celebration, warmth, and connection, those who have spent the year pretending find it harder to keep up appearances. For your enemies, these outward expressions of joy and success are nothing more than a carefully crafted mask. All year, they have projected an image of confidence, happiness, and achievement, hoping to convince the world, and perhaps even you, that their lives are perfect. But as the pressure mounts during the holiday season, their facades begin to crack, revealing the truth behind the mask. In the Bible, we see numerous examples of people who built their lives on falsehoods, only for their true nature to be exposed. Proverbs 12:19 states, "Truthful lips endure forever, but a lying tongue lasts only a moment." Your enemies may have spent months weaving a web of deceit, but the season of reflection and honesty forces them to confront the reality of their actions. Behind closed doors, they are anything but the confident, composed individuals they portray. The smiles they force for family photos are hollow, failing to reach their eyes. The stories they tell about their so-called successes feel empty even to them. The gap between who they pretend to be and who they truly are becomes glaringly impossible to ignore. This reminds me of the story of Ananias and Sapphira in Acts 5:1-11. They tried to deceive the apostles by lying about the amount of money they donated to the church, pretending to give more than they actually did. Their facade of generosity was exposed, and they faced the consequences of their lies. In the same way, your enemies' attempts to create a perfect image of themselves are being exposed as the cracks appear. They cannot hide their true selves forever, and the truth will come to light, just as it did for Ananias and Sapphira. It's like they've spent all year in a constant state of pretense, and now, under the weight of the holiday season, they can no longer bear it. The contrast between their public persona and their private life is too stark. They can't fake joy when they are consumed by bitterness, regret, and envy. They can't fake success when their lives are falling apart in ways they can no longer hide. The very thing that the holidays should represent, gratitude, giving, and love, has become a time of reckoning for them. Instead of embracing the peace of the season, they are trapped in the painful realization that the happiness and fulfillment they've been projecting is nothing but a facade. Have you ever been in a situation where the truth of someone's life became so obvious that even they couldn't deny it? In Luke 12:2, Jesus said, "There is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known." This season, while others celebrate real victories and authentic connections, your enemies are stuck replaying their failures. They see people around them enjoying genuine love and appreciation, but they are left to confront the emptiness they've been hiding all year. The more they try to act like everything is fine, the more it becomes painfully clear that it's not. People around them start noticing the cracks, the forced laughter that sounds unnatural, the restless energy that betrays their inner turmoil, the way they avoid real conversations because they can't keep up the act. What they've worked so hard to hide all year long is now out in the open, unable to be concealed any longer. They spent so much time trying to tear others down, trying to undermine your happiness and success, that they neglected their own personal growth. And now, as they try to maintain the illusion, it's impossible for them to ignore the truth. They've built their lives on fragile lies, and it's all coming undone. This reminds me of the story of King Saul in 1 Samuel 15. Saul was commanded by God to destroy the Amalekites and all their possessions, but he disobeyed, keeping some of the best livestock and sparing the king. When confronted by the prophet Samuel, Saul's facade of obedience crumbled, revealing the truth of his disobedience and pride. His facade of being a good king was exposed, and it cost him the kingdom. Just like Saul, your enemies have created a facade of success and happiness. But now it's all coming undone under the pressure of truth. Your enemies' facades are crumbling under the bright lights of the holiday season, revealing the emptiness they have been desperately trying to cover up. This is their reckoning, the moment when they are forced to face the consequences of their falsehoods. As they struggle to maintain their charade, they are confronted with the uncomfortable truth. They've been living a life built on illusions, and those illusions are now crumbling. They thought they could fool the world, but now they are the ones who are being exposed. Isn't it fascinating how God, in His timing, allows us to see the truth behind the masks people wear? The holidays, meant to be a time of joy and celebration, have become a mirror for your enemies, reflecting the emptiness of their facade. How will they handle this exposure? And more importantly, what does this reveal about the way we should live, honestly, authentically, and in alignment with the truth? Forgiveness is a powerful act, but for those who expect retaliation, it is deeply unsettling. When you, as God's chosen one, rise above their malicious schemes and choose to forgive, you don't just free yourself, you bind them to their own guilt. This is not an easy task. It requires strength, grace, and a deep trust in God's justice. In the face of betrayal or hurt, you might expect to fight back, to match their cruelty with anger or resentment. But instead, you chose the path of peace. You walked away, not in defeat, but in victory. This act of forgiveness becomes a constant shadow over them, one that haunts their every thought far more than any revenge ever could. Why does this haunt them so deeply? When you forgive, you strip them of the power to justify their behavior. They can no longer tell themselves that their actions were justified or that you were somehow deserving of their cruelty. They're forced to confront the raw truth. They hurt someone who refused to meet their negativity with the same bitterness. Instead of fighting back, you showed them the ultimate strength, choosing grace over vengeance. This truth becomes unbearable for them, particularly as the holiday season approaches. Why? Because the holidays are a time for reflection, for peace, and for goodwill. They are surrounded by reminders of the very things they withheld from you, things like compassion, understanding, and love. What does that do to someone? No gift, no distraction, no festive celebration can dull the pain of knowing they tried to harm someone who chose peace over retaliation. Every time they see you thriving, every time they hear of your success, they are reminded that you didn't just survive their attacks, you transcended them. And that reminder sharpens their guilt, deepens their regret, and reinforces the realization that they couldn't break you. Isn't it fascinating how your decision to let go of anger can become a torment for someone else? It's a living testimony to the power of God's grace in your life, and it becomes a constant reminder to them of how far their actions have taken them from God's will. The more you rise, the more they fall into an internal struggle they can't escape. Forgiveness doesn't wipe away what they did. It makes it impossible for them to escape the weight of it. Every thought they have forces them to replay their actions. Why did they let jealousy, insecurity, or pride lead them to hurt someone who ultimately chose a higher path? They can't understand why they failed to recognize the divine strength in your forgiveness. And yet that question continues to torment them. Isn't it striking how forgiveness can expose the darkness in others, even as it brings light to your own life? During this season of joy and redemption, a season meant for healing, they find themselves haunted by the very grace they took for granted. They see the light of Christmas shining in you, a light they tried to extinguish, but instead it has illuminated the truth of their own hearts. This is the price they pay for underestimating God's power working within you. As the year ends and the season of renewal arrives, they are faced with the undeniable fact that they cannot outrun the consequences of their choices. As we reflect on the power of forgiveness, we can look to the example of Jesus, who, even on the cross, forgave those who nailed him there. In Luke 23:34, he said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they're doing." What if we adopted this same heart of forgiveness in the face of betrayal? Could it be that the real victory is not in the justice we seek, but in the peace we extend? How does forgiveness magnify God's glory? And how can it set us free from the chains of resentment? In the end, the peace you choose to walk in is a testament to your faith and trust in God's ultimate justice. And as your enemies are haunted by the grace they can't comprehend, remember that God's perfect justice will always prevail. Your absence speaks volumes, louder than any of your presence ever did. For those who built their entire identity on opposing you, whether out of envy, sabotage, or relentless criticism, the realization that you've moved on is not just unsettling, it's devastating. They thrived in the chaos they created, feeding off the back and forth and thinking they held some form of power by provoking a reaction from you. But now that you've chosen to step away, you've left them to face an uncomfortable, undeniable truth. Without you, they are insignificant. In Matthew 5:44, we are reminded to love our enemies, yet here we see the spiritual dynamic of someone whose life was centered around opposition. The absence of your energy in their lives causes a void that they cannot fill. The question arises, why did their identity become so intertwined with your struggle? Perhaps it was easier for them to focus on tearing you down rather than building themselves up. Now, with no one left to target, they are left questioning their own purpose. What do they have left to live for when you're no longer their object of criticism? This isn't simply about your silence, it's about the void you've left behind. A void so vast that it forces them to confront their deepest insecurities. They had spent so much energy measuring themselves against you, watching your wins, your growth, your strength, believing that by belittling you, they could inflate their own sense of worth. Yet now, your absence has stolen that sense of validation from them. What happens when the one person they sought to diminish no longer gives them the platform to prove their worth? What happens when you're no longer in the picture to measure themselves against? What's left in the wake of your departure is a gaping emptiness they struggle to fill. It's a chilling revelation that without their obsession with you, they have nothing to cling to. Their misplaced fixation on your flaws and weaknesses was the very thing that gave them purpose, a twisted sense of superiority. But as you rise, undeterred by their efforts, they are confronted with their own inadequacies. Consider the words of 2 Corinthians 12:10, where Paul speaks about the strength found in weakness. Isn't it ironic that while they once worked tirelessly to bring you down, your absence has only magnified their own vulnerabilities? Without you as the object of their ridicule, they are forced to reckon with their own inability to thrive without external validation. They now face the harsh reality that their existence was built on the unstable foundation of comparison and conflict. They may try to redirect their energies toward others, perhaps seeking someone new to undermine, but it won't be the same. Their attempts to tear down someone else will feel hollow because their obsession wasn't with you as a person. It was with the way you made them feel about themselves. You were the mirror they used to reflect their self-worth, but now that the mirror is gone, they are left with only their own reflection, unrecognizable and full of doubt. Proverbs 16:18 warns us, pride goes before destruction. Their pride in trying to diminish you is leading them into a spiral of self-doubt, questioning their relevance in a world where you have made it abundantly clear that they no longer matter. They are forced to face the truth that without their efforts to oppose you, they are lost in a sea of obscurity. As you continue to thrive in your peace, unaffected by their negativity, they are left grappling with the emptiness of their existence. You've moved on, and they've been left to face the painful reality that their actions were never about you, but about their inability to find significance on their own. Your absence, more than anything else, exposes the frailty of their false sense of importance. Isn't it fascinating how, when we stop giving energy to the negativity around us, it's not us who suffer, it's those who were once bent on tearing us down? What does it say about those who depend on opposition to feel important? And how much more does it reveal about the strength that comes from finding our identity in God alone? The holidays are meant to be a time of joy, togetherness, and celebration. Yet, for your enemies, this season can turn into a stage where their deepest secrets and hidden truths come to light. While families gather to enjoy the festive spirit, for some, it becomes the unexpected moment when everything they've tried to keep buried rises to the surface. Whether it's a careless slip of the tongue at a dinner table, a suspicious glance exchanged at a holiday party, or someone finally weary of keeping the peace, the truth has a way of exposing itself when least expected. Consider the story of King David in 2 Samuel 12. After his deception with Bathsheba and the murder of her husband, God made sure that his sin came to light, using the prophet Nathan to confront him. Just as David couldn't escape the consequences of his actions, your enemies will find themselves unable to hide their secrets for long. The holidays, which should bring joy, instead magnify their hidden truths. Why does it seem that certain times, like the holidays, have a way of revealing what's been concealed for so long? Could it be that God allows the timing to be a part of his plan for justice and truth? Family gatherings are often the stage where it begins. People talk, and with the air of openness that the season brings, someone may finally speak up about the lies that have been told, or the drama that has been created. The comfort and cheer of the occasion create a perfect contrast to the tension and unease that builds when truths are exposed. What does this reveal about the power of truth? Proverbs 12:19 says, "Truthful lips endure forever, but a lying tongue lasts only a moment." Your enemies may have worked hard to project a certain image, but the truth they've tried to keep hidden cannot be contained forever. What happens when the web of deceit they've spun unravels in front of the people they most wanted to impress? At social events, the holidays bring out gossip in a way that is hard to avoid. The festive atmosphere can only amplify the contrast between the persona your enemies have worked so hard to create and the truths that now start to seep through. Whether it's an old friend dropping a bombshell or a co-worker sharing an inconvenient detail, the pressure of the season brings everything to the surface. Proverbs 18:8 reminds us, "The words of a gossip are like choice morsels. They go down to the inmost parts." The holiday season only makes their secrets more apparent as people begin to connect the dots and realize how much their stories don't align with reality. Even within their own inner circles, the cracks begin to show. Those closest to them, family, friends, colleagues, start to ask questions, noticing the inconsistencies and falsehoods in the narrative that's been spun. It's not just a matter of embarrassment, it's a deeper, isolating experience. Psalm 64:8 tells us, "They will all fall into the pit they have dug for others." Your enemies find themselves in a situation where the very lies they've told are now following them, unable to be hidden, forcing them to scramble to manage the damage. The truth has a way of surfacing, no matter how well it's buried, and once it's out, there's no way to stuff it back down. But the holidays are relentless, aren't they? They are a time of reflection and celebration, but they also offer the perfect environment for the unveiling of truths that have been suppressed for too long. When your enemy's secrets come to light, it is no longer possible to pretend that everything is as it seems. The truth, which may have been hidden in darkness, always comes to light in the fullness of time. As 1 Timothy 5:24 warns, "The sins of some men are obvious, reaching the place of judgment ahead of them. The sins of others trail behind them." There's a divine timing at play, and often it's during the holidays that these secrets are exposed. Why do we see these patterns where those who've lived in deceit are finally revealed during times of celebration? Could it be that the joy of the season shines a light that even the most well-hidden lies cannot escape? And how much more does this expose the power of truth and integrity in our lives? The universe operates on a timeline far different from human expectations. It doesn't stop for holidays or pause for festive cheer. For those who have lived with deceit, malice, or manipulation, the holiday season serves as an undeniable reminder that the scales of justice are always in motion. The universe's judgment doesn't care about the distractions they try to create or the masks they wear. It works relentlessly, and its effects are inescapable. Consider the story of Cain and Abel in Genesis 4:9-12, where Cain's actions, his jealousy and deceit toward his brother, did not escape divine scrutiny. God didn't overlook Cain's sin. He made it clear that justice would come. Much like Cain's attempt to hide from God's judgment, your enemies might plaster on fake smiles or dive into distractions like shopping sprees, extravagant gatherings, or over-the-top celebrations. But no matter how much they try to ignore it, their actions are catching up to them, and the weight of their choices is unraveling their lives in ways they cannot control. The consequences they've tried to avoid are starting to surface. Illness creeps in, not just physical ailments, but emotional and mental struggles as well. Sleepless nights, a sense of overwhelming fatigue, or even unexpected health issues are becoming their reality. These are not mere coincidences. They serve as a wake-up call, a tangible reminder that every action has its repercussions. How much longer can they ignore the toll their behavior has taken on their well-being? As Proverbs 12:15 reminds us, The way of fools seems right to them, but the wise listen to advice. They may have ignored the warnings before, but now the universe is delivering its message in ways they cannot dismiss. Maintaining appearances has never been so challenging for them. Financial struggles emerge, not necessarily catastrophic, but enough to shake their false sense of security. Unexpected bills, failed ventures, or dwindling resources begin to expose the cracks in their carefully constructed world. Perhaps they once believed they could take shortcuts and deceive others, but they now realize that those paths are unsustainable. How much longer can they pretend everything is fine when their foundations are crumbling? The Bible tells us in Luke 12:2, "There is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known." The universe doesn't forget, and it certainly doesn't allow them to hide forever. What's even more devastating is the emotional breakdowns they can no longer hide. The weight of their guilt, envy, and unresolved issues begins to manifest in ways they can't escape. Relationships become strained, arguments flare up, and the stability of their carefully curated world feels more fragile with each passing day. They're being reminded that no amount of pretending can outrun the judgment of the universe. In Psalm 7:9, we're reminded that the righteous God who probes minds and hearts will bring to an end the violence of the wicked. Their inner turmoil, the weight of their actions, will eventually break through their facade. This isn't some petty form of karma. It's about divine balance. The energy they've put out into the world, whether it's negativity, malice, or manipulation, will inevitably come back to them tenfold. And the timing of it couldn't be more ironic. While others celebrate the season of joy, love, and generosity, your enemies are facing a cosmic reckoning that no party or gift can repair. It's a cruel irony that in their quest for control, they're now confronted with forces beyond their comprehension, forces that are beyond human manipulation. The universe's judgment is never loud or flashy. It's quiet, persistent, and inescapable. It works subtly, as God Himself works in the quiet spaces of our lives. As we're reminded in Galatians 6:7, "Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows." This holiday season, while others find peace, your enemies are feeling the weight of their own actions. The universe's judgment is catching up to them in ways they never anticipated. And it is unfolding in the most undeniable and profound manner. How long can they continue to run from what they've sown? Your success has become a nightmare for those who once thrived on painting a false picture of you. For so long, they wove stories designed to diminish your worth, casting you as incapable, misguided, or bound for failure. These lies were their weapon, allowing them to feel superior and gain favor while you were left in the shadows. But now, as the light of your success shines brighter, their narrative is shattered, leaving them scrambling to explain the stark contrast between their fabricated tales and the undeniable reality of who you are. This holiday season, your enemies are facing the consequences of their actions in a way they never anticipated. Your success is no longer just a private matter, it is public. Whether it's the promotion you received, the business that's thriving, the relationships that are blossoming, or the undeniable glow of someone whose life is flourishing, your achievements can't be overlooked. What was once a quiet victory for you has now become the loudest statement of all. The people around you, from co-workers to family members, are witnessing the change. And in the face of your progress, the lies they spread begin to fall apart. Have you ever considered how powerful it is when others witness the truth for themselves? The version of you they tried to destroy doesn't match the resilient, accomplished person standing before them. This leaves your enemies exposed, their credibility crumbling. As their lies unravel, people start to ask questions. Why did they spread such falsehoods about you in the first place? What was the real motivation behind their attacks? The seeds of doubt they planted in others now grow against them. and the trust they worked so hard to establish withers away. This is the moment they realize that their tactics have backfired, and instead of elevating their position, they've set themselves up for exposure. The Bible speaks of the power of God's justice in revealing the truth. Proverbs 12:19 says, "Truthful lips endure forever, but a lying tongue lasts only a moment." Your success under God's guidance has shown that while lies may thrive for a time, they will ultimately be exposed. This is the season where those who sought to tear you down are facing the consequences of their own actions. It's not just your success that is speaking for you. God is revealing the truth to everyone around you. What makes this victory even more satisfying is that you didn't have to defend yourself. You didn't need to engage in their pettiness or counter their attacks. Your success alone has done the work, dismantling their narrative without you lifting a finger. Instead of wasting energy on defending yourself, you let your flourishing life speak volumes. The people around them are starting to see the truth, and your enemies are now exposed for what they truly are: bitter, insecure, and deceitful. As they watch you continue to rise, their own insecurities become painfully clear. The very narratives they created to lift themselves up are now exposed as the baseless lies they always were. This holiday season, as they try to enjoy their Christmas, the reality of their deceit weighs heavy on them. Their holiday cheer is now a hollow echo, drowned out by the consequences of their actions. They're left wondering how they ever thought they could defeat you in the first place. This is more than just a personal win for you. It's a powerful revelation for everyone around you. The truth is finally being revealed, and those who once belittled you can no longer hide behind their lies. The story of your success is now one they can't deny, and in their own minds, they're facing the Christmas holiday of hell. Will they continue to pretend, or will they face the truth and realize they can no longer live in the lies they once told? Just as Psalm 23:5 reminds us, "You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies." God has already prepared your victory, and your success is a feast for all to see, leaving no room for doubt or falsehoods. The holidays are traditionally a time of connection, warmth, and togetherness, a season meant to bring people closer, sharing love and joy with family and friends. But for your enemies, this time of year only amplifies the loneliness they've carefully cultivated. While the world celebrates with festive dinners, holiday traditions, and the familiar comfort of loved ones, they are left to face the consequences of their own actions in painful isolation. No decoration, no party, no holiday cheer can mask the emptiness they now feel. In this season of connection, they are confronted by the stark void that their bitterness, envy, and resentment have created in their lives. These emotions, which they once poured into relationships with the hope of tearing others down or manipulating situations, have left them estranged and alone. The holidays, which should be a time of gathering, now serve as a painful reminder of the relationships they've sabotaged out of spite. The friends they once manipulated, the family they pushed away, and the bridges they burned in an effort to hurt you, these aren't just minor losses. These are the kinds of connections that carry real meaning during the holidays, and now they are left without them. As they scroll through social media, surrounded by images of laughter, gatherings, and holiday cheer, the emptiness of their own lives becomes undeniable. The contrast between the warmth they see and the coldness they feel cuts deeper than any gift could heal. They crave the connections they once took for granted but pushed away or destroyed. They long for the relationships they sabotaged in their pursuit of control, superiority, or petty revenge. And yet, as the festive season swirls around them, they are left with only the harsh reality of what they have lost, and the realization that no amount of gift-giving or surface-level festivities can fill the void they've created. In the Bible, Proverbs 18:1 reminds us that whoever isolates himself seeks his own desire. He breaks out against all sound judgment. This verse serves as a poignant reminder that isolation is often a self-inflicted consequence, born from pride and bitterness. Your enemy's loneliness is not a mere accident, it is the direct result of their choices. They cannot blame others for the isolation they now feel, because it was their own actions that severed the ties that once bound them. Now, as the world gathers around the warmth of familial love, they are left to reckon with their own inner coldness. What makes their loneliness even more unbearable is the contrast they experience. They may try to distract themselves with superficial gestures, perhaps throwing themselves into extravagant gifts, social gatherings, or temporary distractions, but deep down, they know that these are mere attempts to cover up something deeper and more painful. The people they long to reconnect with are either unwilling to return or have found new connections in spaces that they can no longer access, spaces that you too occupy. Their attempts to reclaim these lost relationships are futile, because the emotional substance required for true connection is something they can no longer give or receive. The people who once adored them, trusted them, or walked beside them have either moved on or closed the door to further hurt. And as they watch others celebrate with the connections they so desperately desire, they are left alone to reflect on the choices they made. This season of love and reflection, which is meant to bring people closer, is ironically a time for them to feel the full weight of their self-inflicted loneliness. The consequences of their envy and malice have been made clear, and they must face the truth. The relationships they once tried to destroy are the very ones they now need the most. It is a cruel irony that leaves them grappling with the reality of their actions, realizing that no amount of temporary distractions can restore what they've lost. What is the real cost of the envy and bitterness they've nurtured? As the Christmas season unfolds, will they continue to ignore the true meaning of connection, or will they confront the loneliness that only they have created? And, in the midst of this isolation, how will they reconcile with the fact that they, not others, are the source of their own suffering? Just as the Bible teaches in Galatians 6:7, "Do not be deceived. God is not mocked, for whatever one sows, that will he also reap." The seeds they planted in bitterness and resentment are now bearing fruit, and the harvest is one they can no longer escape. This holiday season, the truth of their actions is laid bare, and they are left to grapple with the consequences of their choices. The ultimate twist in their story comes when they're forced to watch your blessings unfold. Blessings they once tried to block or undermine. This isn't just poetic justice, it's a front-row seat to the power of resilience, grace, and a higher plan working in your favor. For them, it's the cruelest irony. Your light doesn't just shine, it blinds them. They see you thriving, surrounded by the abundance they believed they could disrupt. It's in the laughter of your genuine relationships, the success you've earned through perseverance, and the peace you carry, that their envy reaches its peak. While they're drowning in self-inflicted turmoil, you're celebrating victories they never saw coming. What stings the most is that they can't look away. Social media posts, mutual friends, or even casual mentions of your name force them to confront your growth. They realize that their schemes and negativity weren't just ineffective, they were fuel for your rise. The harder they tried to dim your light, the brighter you shone. This holiday season becomes their personal purgatory, a time when the world celebrates joy and connection, but they're consumed by the bitterness of seeing you prosper. They might try to dismiss it, downplay it, or convince themselves it doesn't matter, but deep down, they know the truth. Your blessings are undeniable, unstoppable, and deserved. Their despair isn't just about what they've lost, it's about what they'll never be able to take away from you. And that, more than anything, is what seals their holidays of hell. This Christmas season is not just about twinkling lights and festive gatherings. It's a moment of reckoning for those who have sown negativity and caused harm. While they grapple with the chaos of their own making, you are thriving in the peace and purpose that God has prepared for you. Their struggles are not your concern. The justice they face is the natural balance of the universe unfolding as it should. You've risen above their noise, focused on what truly matters, and embraced a life filled with growth and resilience. Let this season be a celebration of how far you've come, a triumph of leaving behind the toxicity and stepping into a light that no one can diminish. Their discomfort is a reflection of their choices, not yours, and it's not your burden to carry. So, as they face their holidays of reckoning, you step boldly into a future of blessings, knowing that the best is yet to come. Protect your peace, cherish your success, and walk confidently in the path God has laid out for you. If this message resonates with you, consider donating through Super Thanks to support this ministry. Whether you donate or not, your presence and engagement are deeply appreciated. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment below, and share this message with someone who might need it. May God bless you abundantly this holiday season, filling your heart with joy, your spirit with strength, and your life with His unending peace. Merry Christmas.